All right, everybody, welcome back to the Millennial Sales Podcast, episode 258. Tommy Tahoe in the house, October 13th. Let's get after it. Got a heck of an episode today, folks. Ian Koniak, this is an all-time great. Let me just tell you right off the bat that you're going to be thankful that you spent the 45 minutes to an hour listening to this podcast. Ian just has an amazing story. He dropped some incredible bombs on this one. For anyone throughout their sales career, I think they can get a ton of value. Let's give a quick backdrop on Ian. He's been in enterprise sales for 18 years, both at Ricoh and at Salesforce. He sold over $100 million, $100 million throughout his career, and including one deal that was over 10, maybe multiple deals that were over 10, but at least one that he talks about on this show. He does talk about his largest deal ever. And just that would be enough. Just that would be enough to hear from Ian and hear what he has to say and be fully captivated by everything and learn how to be a better strategic seller. But that's only half the story. The other half is Ian's personal journey. And he talks about his struggles and his addictions to drugs and alcohol and other vices earlier in his career throughout his 20s, and how he conquered that and came through the other side and really worked through the highs and lows of that while still being a top performer. And on the other side, becoming more fulfilled personally with his family, with his faith, with his finances. And to me, Ian is just an incredible story, incredibly inspirational about, the type of person that I'd like to be. And I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. Before we get to Ian in 1 minute, let's just do a quick shout out to our sponsor. First of all, Millennial Sales and everything that we do, we'll sponsor this show. So check me out on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me, Tom Alemo. I'm Tommy Tahoe everywhere else on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and so on down the list. Would love if you subscribed and reviewed this show. That really helps us get more downloads and build this and spread it to more people. But the other sponsors of this podcast, the OGs, Postal.io. Postal is a marketplace that helps you create better relationships with your customers. So you can send gifts to customers and prospects. Instead of just a Starbucks gift card, it can be from the bar, the brewery down the street. It could be from the local florist. It helps you create the connection. And so when you're not seeing people in person or not doing that as frequently, it's a great way to do that digitally. That's one of my favorite moves that I saw coming from another rep was at the end of the quarter, he and his SDR sent out gifts to just like gift cards, Starbucks gift cards, to VPs of their selected persona that they're selling to that said, hey, that they didn't get in touch with or that they talked to 6 months ago and said, hey, it's been a while. Hope you enjoyed this coffee for end of quarter. As kind of like that light touch before you get back into the hunting that begins in a new quarter. So that's a fun tip for you. Otherwise, go check them out at postal.io. Show me some love on LinkedIn and everywhere else. Without further ado, let's get into this outstanding interview with Ian Koniak. Let's go. All right, Ian Koniak, welcome to the Millennial Sales Podcast. How are you this afternoon?
I'm great. Nice to see you, Tom. Great to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm pumped to have you on. I've been following your content for a while. You've been making big moves in the content space and in the coaching space. You're just looking at your stats alone on LinkedIn. I challenge anyone to go to your profile and stack their numbers against yours over the last 20 years as a salesperson. So I'm super excited to have you on.
Thank you, man. Great to be here and happy to help your audience however I can.
So let's get into it, man. You've sold, I think, $100 million plus in your sales career and have had tremendous success at Ricoh and at Salesforce and now doing some coaching. Just walk me through just like the very, very beginning of the journey, like why you got into sales, how you got into sales. What was the first step for you?
Yeah, I think when you have a strong why, you're always going to figure out how. And for me, when I started in sales, I had an extremely strong why as to not only why I wanted to be in sales, but why I needed to make a lot of money very quickly and be successful. So before sales, I've told this story to a few people, but I was actually a teacher. Interestingly enough, I was in college and I left Berkeley. I graduated back in 2001, and I just didn't want to go into the corporate world. I loved traveling. I had been living in Australia for a year as studying abroad, and I just wanted to keep going. And so I found an externship to go teach English in South America. And I lived there for a year, and it was amazing. And I got to camp in crazy wild places and have so many adventures, and really, really did. It was one of the best years of my life. And part of that journey was that I fell in love when I was down there. And when my visa ran out, I had a choice to make, would I stay in South America or come back to the US? And, as much as I liked it down there, I knew that I couldn't live there long term. It was, fairly dangerous. The economy wasn't great, and it's only gotten worse in Venezuela since then. But I basically had to say goodbye to my girlfriend and leave this amazing world and move back in with my parents. And I had no money, no job, and no girlfriend. And so it was like going from the highest of highs to like a real, low of lows. And I was just like, I got to get out of here. I have to be able to see my girlfriend again. I love her, but she had zero money. I mean, the Venezuelan currency, you can't go and buy a plane ticket or, get to the US. So it was on me to be able to figure out a way to fly her here from Venezuela. And the only way I could do that was if I somehow was able to pay for her college and get her a student visa to come to the US. And so in very short order, I started exploring jobs that I can get, and teaching wasn't an option, and travel writing and photojournalism, which I wanted to do, wasn't an option. That was all freelance. I'm like, well, what can I do to make as much money as possible? And so I thought, I might be good at sales. I had done retail sales in college as a summer job, and finished well. And so I went to a sales career fair, and there was a company there called Lanier. In Lanier, I didn't know what they did, but it turns out they sold copiers and printers. They ended up getting bought by Ricoh down the road. But I still remember there was a big flyer, and it said, make 50K year one, 75K year two, and 100K plus year three. Now, keep in mind, this is 20 years ago. So I was living with my parents. I didn't have to pay rent. I'm like, well, 50K, I can save enough for her tuition of 15,000, save enough for an apartment, fly her here, and go ahead and make it happen. What do I have to do? So I got an interview, and they said, we will guarantee your 50K if you do what we say you need to do. And I said, great, sign me up. And so they basically took a chance on me with no sales experience and gave me the job, because I was extremely hungry and I had to succeed. Their interview question was, why would we hire a teacher, with no sales experience? They laughed. And I said, because I have to make this work. I don't have a choice. And I got into why, and they could see that I was very driven. And fortunately, that drive really never left me, and now in 19 years of selling. So that's how I got started. I started selling door-to-door copiers. And it was a business to business sale. They stuck me in the worst of the territories that they had like 4 or 5 reps turnover in the past year. I mean, no one lasted even months there. It was Koreatown, and I didn't speak any Korean. There was not a big base of customers, and they basically said, go cold call door to door, give out your business cards, and sell copiers. And these were $10,000 copiers. And so it really was the school of hard knocks. It taught me how to really, prospect, how to close hard, how to, I got a lot of reps. I got a lot of reps in the B2B world, really resilience and persistence and just skill through that first year of selling. It just gave me so much confidence. And fortunately, I was able to get my girlfriend here. Unfortunately, she and I didn't work out. And that's a different story, but that's how I got started. And here we are 19 years later.
That's wild. I think everyone that's been in sales for a while and has had success always has an interesting story of getting in, and also just those battle scars from especially the first year. Like you're always given a really tough situation, tough territory. Maybe you're working for a bad company, or you've had a tough stretch in some way, and having to work through that. But just looking again through the numbers, like it looked like you picked it up super quickly. At one point, you're promoted to management a few times, hit 42 consecutive months, which will put an exclamation point on that. That's almost 4 years in a row. Like where are you at in that space of your life? You're probably in like your mid-20s, just hunting, just super ambitious, crushing it. Like just can't be stopped from a professional standpoint at that point, probably.
Yeah, I would say on the career side, I was definitely crushing it. I was the guy who got up at the SKOs and the conferences and would like be the rep presenting on what to do. And it was interesting. It was an interesting time in my life. I ended up, I went through a rough patch on the personal side in the 20s, and I was working really hard and I was playing really, really hard at the same time. And even when you talk about it, I think back to those days, and I don't remember just the killing it of the sales. I remember the wild times in my own personal life and how crazy I was. And it does give me, a little heartache to think back upon, because I had worked so hard and I had such this crazy confidence and ego that like I had all this energy, and on the weekends I needed to channel it. And it was an interesting time where it was a lot of people, I'd say in their 20s, mid 20s. And it was like this party culture at Ricoh where I worked, and we were all making money. Like I said, the ex-girlfriend didn't work out. She ended up cheating on me, and I was in a lot of pain. I had brought her here. We were living together. It happened under the roof. And, it was a channel for me where I worked really hard, and that made me feel good about myself because I was personally, hurting a lot. And so, it's just bringing back memories. Like on the career side, I was definitely dialed in. I hit 42 months in a row, which still stands as a company record. But, that taught me a lot, like that even if you have success on the external world, if you don't have your internal values and integrity and foundation where it needs to be, then all that doesn't really mean anything. So it was a time where I experienced a lot of success, and actually I experienced a lot of personal failures outside of work that I think I learned a lot from, that I really makes me value what I have today, and what I do today with my free time is so different. And it was just kind of a wild time in my life, to be frank with you, Tom. But I was dialed in on the career side for sure.
Well, I've heard you talk a little bit about just the drinking, the drugs, the addiction, the women, just all of that. Just like you mentioned, you're grinding during the day and then like going out and partying, at night or on the weekends. How long was that? Like, was that portion of your life where all of that was going on before you kind of hit a bit of a breaking point on the personal side?
I would say it really went from 2005 to 2010. So about a 5-year period. So I got cheated on in September 2005. Not like I remember the exact month and year, but that's when it happened. And that's when I just like was bitter and pissed, and it was like, I'm gonna, just bust my ass and have a lot of fun and screw everything. And that went on honestly until I met my wife. So I met my wife in July of 2010. I met her at a Tony Robbins conference, and she definitely changed my life for the better and gave me focus and direction towards another person versus towards, I would say, this debauchery kind of lifestyle where I was definitely, and I mentioned this because I know there's a Millennial podcast and you have an audience, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in the same boat where they're working really hard, they're single and they're having fun, and it's like, it's not fulfilling, right? It's that cycle that you're in. And I coach a lot of people that are in the same cycle, and it's like they're making all this money, but they're not happy. They're just like, it's just ego driven and just big, excited craziness. But then in the inside, it's like, what is this all for? There's this part of me that wasn't fulfilled. So I meet my wife, and she's just like polar opposite of me. And it really did force me to kind of put on a good face with her and really like show her she brings out the best in me, right? Because she won't stand for that. And interestingly enough, my wife so when I met her, it was at a Tony Robbins firewalk, and she was the firewalk partner that I had. So
No
talk about
kidding.
stars aligning. Yeah. Talk about, God putting you in the right place with the right person. That was the story of my marriage. And we went through this exercise together, and the exercise, Tony Robbins had us journal on one question and then share it with a partner. And she happened to be my partner for that question. The question was, what is the one thing that you need to change in your life to live the life that you deserve? And she looks at me and she starts crying. And she basically says, she can barely talk. And she's like, I need to divorce my husband. And I'm thinking, jackpot. A little humor for you there. No, but the truth is, then we got into it. We got into it, and that was like, and she's beautiful. My wife is stunning, inside and out. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to give you the life you deserve. That was my first thought when I met her. I'm going to give you the life you deserve. And she basically opens up and it's like, well, why do you need to divorce your husband? What's going on? And she just pours her heart out and says, like, he's an alcoholic. And for 11 years, I've had to, worry and stress, and he's gotten in trouble with the law. And, I'm up at night, not knowing where he is, and all this stuff, and pours her heart out, the poor thing. And what's ironic is I'm thinking to myself at the time that, I'm going to give her the life that she deserves. And meanwhile, I'm like deep in this kind of addictive lifestyle of work hard, play hard. So I have to turn on this face, this we end up becoming friends, talking, and then it gets, into a very serious relationship very quick. And she does leave her husband, and she thinks that I'm this goody, right? And she thinks that I'm this, saint compared to him. And meanwhile, I'm still kind of living this lifestyle, but just kind of hiding it from her, not sharing it. And fast forward, all this ended up blowing up in my face. That's why I talk about addiction. I talk about what's really important in life a lot when I go on these podcasts, because I almost lost my family because I did keep secrets. And I did have this part of me that I didn't want to reveal because she was so good. She was so pure. And I just didn't want to disappoint her. And so I kind of lived a double life in that sense, where I kept a big part of who I was from her. And it's all kind of come full circle now. And now I can truly look at anyone I talk to and say, I am me, and I'm not living lies, and I'm living a life of integrity and honesty. And it feels really, really good to be able to say that. But all these experiences kind of brought me to where I am today. And if I hadn't gone through them and live that, I wouldn't appreciate what it means to live in a life of integrity and values that are driven by principles, and not money and recognition and external success of what other people tell you need to achieve. And I think that was the bulk of my 20s, is I was doing things for other people and what I thought, I should do, versus what really made me happy and truly fulfilled as a person.
That's a great story. And just a real quick point. I went to a Tony Robbins UPW event like 3 or 4 years ago, and it changed my life too. Maybe shorter time horizons, but was doing the same thing you were talking about the first year or two in sales, like, getting after it during the day, and like, going out and partying 5-6 nights a week. And, when I moved from Boston to San Francisco, that was kind of like the point where I tried to alleviate and really change my behaviors. And one of the key things in that was going to that event. And like, if you haven't been, for any of the listeners, you absolutely should. And I could see why, if you're talking about some of those exercises with someone, like, they go deep. Like, you're revealing your whole self to people that you just met, which is one of the wildest experiences I feel like I've ever had.
Yeah. Good for you, man. I mean, I would encourage everybody to go to that. If you really have wanted to make changes for a long time in your life, but have been unable to get away from yourself or break the patterns or cycles that you're in right now, it's a great, chance to completely disrupt all the patterns in your ways of thinking and just break you down. And especially that Saturday in the event, where they go really deep into like fast forwarding into what your life would be like in 5 or 10 years if you're not changing. I mean, we had people screaming and yelling, and it was so intense. But man, I mean, talk about getting real, like with, people change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And a lot of times we're just not in enough pain. It's like, well, I'm comfortable, and why do I really need to change? And that kind of exercise, that visualizing of like what your life will be like, and in many years, and really digging into the things that you don't like about yourself, is extremely powerful to make you realize and basically stop rationalizing why you don't need to change. Because rationalize, the word I've heard someone say, is rational lies. They're lies, but they're rational. So you can tell yourself something, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. And so events like that are big pattern interrupters. I'm still doing work like that. I'm still going to these personal development events for myself to really stay true to who I know I am, because I lose focus sometimes, and you get caught in your success or whatever you're working on, or whatever the season is presenting. And sometimes you lose sight of like who you truly are, and in your motives of what you're doing, why you're doing, and you just get caught in the grind. And so I have to hit reset. I try to hit reset every year at least, and get back to my core, and build upon the core that I know is my essence. And those events are just fantastic for doing that. So kudos for you for going, and I'm glad it was life-changing for you, Tom.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, because I'm sure, just from knowing other people that have had, addictions and things of that sort, like, that there is, you have to stay on the path, right? You have to stay diligent on the path. And it doesn't mean that even though you are staying diligent, that there's not temptations that come along. And so I was curious, it sounds like you do that once a year or maybe twice a year, kind of like big event. Are there other things that you do to help you kind of stay in that proper mindset? If it's some people might, meditate or journal, or maybe it's just spending time with your family, or something completely different. But just curious if there's any other practices daily or weekly that you do.
I think for me, I have a lot of practices, which I would say remind me. I think once a year wouldn't be enough. I have a morning routine and regular, if you look at like truly successful people, not just on the outside, but truly successful in their families, in their health. I'm running a half marathon on Sunday. I have a beautiful family. I am really, really, I feel right now at a place where I can go do anything I want and make it happen, because I have belief in myself. And that's what I mean by truly successful people, is people that I look up to and that mentor me are the kind that have no limits, that they're setting, they see infinite possibility. And I found that a common denominator, for those folks, is they do have routines that, essentially help them, keep the saw sharp, as Stephen Covey says. For anybody listening, the first book I would ever pick up and recommend for how to develop yourself and how to actually overcome, bad habits or ways of thinking, and truly empower yourself to be the very best version of yourself, is Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And habit number 7 is that it's sharpen the saw. So he talks about, doing things that help you mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, with your relationships. And so for me, I touch upon all of those things. Physically, I'm exercising 3-4 days a week at least. I go on long runs, on a regular basis. I go on my Peloton bike. I take walks with my family. That hits a few of the buckets, but exercise for me is fundamental. And in the morning, especially, it sets the tone for the day. The second thing I do is prayer. Every day I pray, right? For me, things that have happened to me, I know are not coincidence. I do believe in God strongly, and I believe He saved me many times, in many ways. And so for me, if I don't pray, my faith can diminish, right? It's like I can question things. So even if I'm not feeling like especially strong or faithful, I still take a few minutes to say a prayer, a gratitude prayer of what I'm thankful for, which some people do gratitude journals. For me, it's just thanking God for the blessings and asking Him for strength in the areas where I need it. So that's fundamentally important. Every single day I have lunch with my wife, right? So no matter what's going on, I'll block off an hour. We'll have lunch together to feed that emotional connection. And I also do things to keep my energy high. So, for me, I don't have a heavy breakfast. I have an energy shake in the morning that, really gets me feeling good. I make sure I get my rest. I set my priorities for the day. So I'm focused on, what matters. And I'm really working on the things that are going to move the needle in my business. So I take time in the morning to plan, to pray, to exercise, to get my, physical energy with the shake. So I do that stuff every day. If I run, I'll take a cold shower afterwards. It wakes me up. So I have these little things I do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, that really do kind of force me to get into peak performance mode, and to remind myself, because they're hard. It's hard to wake up early and exercise. It's hard to take a cold shower. It's hard to pray if you're not feeling it, right? So these things are like, they really establish not only the discipline, but you feel great when you do them. And then it just becomes like, okay, I'm not feeling good. Oh, what happened? I didn't exercise. Oh, what happened? I forgot to pray. It's like, so I notice it physically when I don't do things. And these are hacks, frankly, that anyone can do. Strategic selling techniques in the world, but if you don't have that foundation of work ethic and discipline and rock solid values and integrities that makes you want to be of service for the people, you're screwed long term. Even if you are financially successful and you end up selling, you're going to have a void inside of you that will never be filled until you really, I think Maslow's hierarchy of needs describes this really well. The highest level is that self-actualization, becoming oneself and staying true to one's values. And that's really right now where I'm focused, is knowing who I am. And that's why I quit Salesforce, right? I'm leaving Salesforce. My last day is Friday, because my values now have evolved into serving other people in a much bigger way. And I know I wouldn't be true to myself if I just was focused on what I was doing there instead of, pursuing my coaching career.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about motivation for a second. I think it sounds like we both kind of fell into a similar trap, and I think it's pretty common for, young people, especially salespeople that are ambitious. They want to make money. They want to get promoted. They want some sort of success. And beginning of your career is like really kind of like extrinsically motivated, right? On the,
100%.
I want to buy this car. I want to pay off my student loans. I want to be a millionaire by a certain age, whatever it might be. And it sounds like that was driving you for a long time and worked, right? That's the tricky part, is that it works.
That's
and then
that's the deception. And I want to keep going with where you're going, but I don't regret a thing about what I did and what got me there. And that's what I needed at the time. That was my motivation, right? It shifted as I experienced that external success, but keep going with what you were asking about.
No, yeah. Well, I think like when I think about my early sales career, like I would be in my head, I'd never say it to people, but I'd be like, looking around other sales reps to be like, oh, I'm going to smoke him and smoke her. Like, it was just like, it was so competitive with other people. And as I've gotten older and more mature, I think that's kind of burnt me out. And it's trying to focus on, and what I think it seems like for you too, is like focusing on a larger thing here that you're, whether it's your family, it sounds like, whether it's the person that you want to be, and now whether it's, serving these other people that you're coaching and teaching. But yeah, talk me through that evolution a little bit, because I agree. I don't regret having that different type of motivation. It served me for a period of time, but I just don't think it's sustainable for most people to do that long term.
Yeah, I'll kind of share my background, but before I do, the happiness advantage, great book, and it talks about here's kind of the thing I've learned over the years is I used to always think success would bring happiness, right? And so I chased success, but I was never happy. And the happiness advantage, I shouldn't say I was happy. I was in good spirits. I was socially, I wasn't depressed, moping around, but I always felt this void. I always felt like, is this it? Like a hamster running on a wheel. I'm like, what am I doing? There's in the back of my head, there was this like, man, this doesn't feel that great. It feels a little empty. And the happiness advantage, it throws that on, flips it on its head. It says the most successful people put their happiness first. So happiness leads to success, not the other way around. And that is a great book. And there's also a TED talk called The Happiness Advantage as well, if you don't want to read the whole book, that kind of summarizes it. But it's a long study of happiness and success in the workplace. And people who do put their happiness first are actually easier to do business with. They're more compatible, they communicate better, and they rise faster and achieve more success at work. So prioritize happiness. And I think people have a different way of doing that. For me in my 20s, my prioritization of happiness was taking trips to Vegas or, going to the bars and clubs and really kind of letting loose because, but there was this cycle that I was in. And I think, for one thing, if you have student debt, if you have a crummy apartment you're living in and you want to improve your circumstances, if you can't, you have to take the bus because you don't have a car or you're not proud of your car to go on dates or whatever, of course you're going to be money motivated, and that's good. I think money motivation is a very, very good thing in sales. Okay. And people can say, I'm altruistically motivated and, I'm great in sales, but I think that's bullshit. Okay. I think the best people that crush it in sales really like making money and the lifestyle it affords. Or okay. Yeah. I'm saying this for a reason because I'm quitting sales and I'm retiring from sales. I'm not going to say quitting. I'm retiring from corporate sales and running my own business, which still has selling a huge component of it involved. But my motives now are truly more altruistic. And if I wanted to just say, oh, I can be the best salesperson by helping my customers grow and succeed, yeah, I can do that and make $1 million, but it's very different. Okay. Because the stress and the day-to-day grind and what you go through during that process, you better not, having a clear vision and a reason for why you want to make money lets you put up with and get through the daily grind, the rejection, the hardships. So I do think it is really important to have a, have a vision for what you want in your life. Now, you get to a certain point where you get all those things. Okay. So let's just say you want a certain type of house and you're able to buy that house, and you want to drive a certain type of car and you're able to buy that car, and you want to support your family and you're able to, and now you still have excess millions in the bank. Yeah. And you're like, well, what am I going to do with it? Just spend it frugal, recklessly, or maybe I'll start investing. And so you buy some real estate, or you get some cash flow, net positive investments where you create some residual income yourself outside of work. You can do all these things and create a very nice lifestyle for yourself. But unless you fundamentally enjoy what you're doing, at some point, the money, if it's not about the money anymore, you're going to get tired of the grind and you're going to ask yourself, well, how much longer could I do that? And that's where I was in sales, a couple of years ago. I said, okay, I have made $1 million twice now. I've been able to buy my dream house. I drove a Maserati. I had multiple real estate properties and condos and apartments and all kinds of investments that were doing well. And it's like, okay, is it all about just the money? Like you get to a point where you're making enough money to take care of your needs and then some. You don't have to worry about money anymore. And then it becomes, okay, what do I really want to be doing? Where do I really find joy and fulfillment? What is my dream that I was afraid to pursue before because I thought it wouldn't make enough money, or I didn't want to give up the money I had? And so I got to a place a few years ago. I'll give you one more story on how I got started with coaching. Yeah. Where I remember the day. It was December 28th, 2018. Okay. And Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits, talks about this a lot. And he said, if someone was to write your obituary right now, let's say you only had 30 days to live, would you be proud of what they're writing? Would you have gotten everything you wanted to in there, right? If your wife is writing, if your kids were writing, if your boss is writing, if your colleagues, right? What would you want to be known for? And he has you go through, all these exercises on, and I had a real world experience with this. And so it was December 28th, 2018. And I was at an amusement park, Six Flags Magic Mountain. And I went on a flying coaster. For those who don't know, a flying coaster is a coaster where the actual track is above you and you are hanging to simulate flying. So you're hanging over the harness versus sitting on a seat above the track. So there's nothing below you. You're sitting like Superman, completely, 90 degrees, facing down your whole body. So I was on this flying coaster. We get to the very, very top of it. We're about to do the giant drop, and the ride has a big plunk, and then it stops and breaks in the top of this flying coaster. So we were literally hanging upside down. And it was a long time up there. We were up there for about 30 minutes. And
Jesus.
I kid you not, Tom, the entire time I thought the strap or the harness was going to come off, because I thought maybe the ride would get reset or something, would happen where they reset it. And because that's what they have to do. They have to flip you backwards to hang. And now we're stuck hanging. And I just, because
Wow.
the track's above you and you're not thinking straight at that point. So I thought I was going to die. I really did. I thought I'd be hanging upside down, and I thought about my wife. I thought about my son, Max. My second son hadn't been born yet at this point, but I just, there was this emptiness inside, and I'm like, man, my life would be a disappointment right now. And the realization I had was that I had lived my life selfishly. I'd been in pursuit of everything I had done has been for me. My family had been for me, my dream family, my house, my income. It's like my entire world was centered around making as much money as I could so I could have all the things I wanted. Okay. And the realization I had there was that I hadn't given, and I hadn't served, and I hadn't helped the world in a way that I would be proud of if I died. And there were a lot of gifts that I used solely for the benefit of myself versus in service of other people. And I was up there, and, I basically started praying hard, very hard. And I said, God, please help me. Don't let this thing, I mean, you have to imagine, I can show you a picture after this. I have a picture from up there. And
I'm scared to look at the picture.
It was the scariest freaking thing I've ever been through in my life. And just staring, it was 180 feet in the air. And the whole time I thought I was going to die. So I'm praying, and I said, God, I promise I will not wait anymore to start serving other people. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I promise you that I will use my gifts in service of other people. And I kid you not, right when I made that, the ride started going.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, there's another moment that I can't deny. And I literally have probably 5 of these moments, these life-altering moments where you just see the truth, and it's so clear to you. I heard someone describe these moments. I don't remember what life-altering is not. It's more like an aha moment, right? It's more like when you see the truth in such clarity. And at that moment I saw the truth of what I wanted to do with my life. And I started making videos. I started on Instagram, just, to serve other people and just share kind of some lessons I've learned. And it evolved into a coaching business. Interestingly enough, that same day when I thought I was going to die, in the morning, I had been listening to a podcast, and the guest was the author of the 5 Regrets of the Dying. That was all about regrets of the dying. And then at night, after I got back from Magic Mountain, I go home, and that night my dog dies suddenly out of the blue. So it was like, again, God was like, get it. Like, some people need a little nudge. Others need to be literally hung upside down to
literally,
get the message across. And unfortunately, I am the guy who needs to be fucking held upside down and so clearly rattled for me to make changes in my life. And every major change I've had, and every major shift that I've made has been when I've been rattled and my world has been rocked. And that's how I got started. So the realization I have now, back to your question, was that, helping other people succeed and using your gifts to create something, to be able to inspire others, to lead by example, and to truly be of service is much more fulfilling than just wanting to serve yourself and your bank account. And I can attest that when you are living in service of others and truly adding value, the money will come and will flow. And unfortunately, my coaching business has done exceptionally well in a very short time, because I'm trying to live those principles of adding value and serving my clients. And that's how I've been able to now leave Salesforce, because I realized that this is what I'm being called to do. And it's not about the money. I know the money's going to come, but I'm doing this because I want to help the sales community. I want to help people sell the right way, and not teach what and why, which there's a lot of sales content out there, like what to do and why to do. There's so many methodologies and tactics, but I want to teach people how to actually sell, how to connect with executives. And that's the feedback I get over and over again from my clients, is you're showing me how to actually do this stuff versus telling me what to do. And that's the gap. That's the gap that exists in the training market. So I'm super excited to be able to teach people how to do the job versus telling them what to do and why to do it. So yeah, it's on to the next chapter of my life. But service, being of service and doing things to serve others really does bring a fulfillment that that I can't describe. So much more than just seeing that commission check and not knowing what to do with it, or just kind of having it be surreal because it's so much, and you're like, that's the shift. That was my evolution of getting to this point. If that answers your question, I know it's a really long answer, but that's good context. I didn't really realize that until literally I was hanging upside down and I felt about it. So it takes something. It takes experience. Here's the other thought I have is it takes experiencing that level of success to realize that that's not what brings you happiness. So Jim Carrey has a great quote where he says, I wish everybody could become rich and famous so they realize it's not the answer. Right? Because what are you sacrificing in that pursuit to get rich and famous, right? I sacrificed a lot. And when I realized what I had sacrificed was way more important than what I got from it, right? Meaning time with my family and my integrity and all the other stuff we talked about. Then it was like, okay, none of this matters anymore. None of this matters if my family's not here to enjoy it with me, right? And I think people learn that the hard way after it's too late. And I'm just so thankful that I didn't, that I came out stronger on the other side without having lost, the things that are most important to me. Yeah.
I've got one more question, and then I've got a couple speed rounds for you before we wrap up. I was curious, a question that I get a lot from other, AEs and people that listen to the show is, when people are starting to do well as an AE, right, there tends to be two paths, right? You can either go and be the top AE at, enterprise AE at somewhere like Salesforce, right? And you're selling the biggest deals to the biggest companies in the world, or you can go down a manager route, right? And try to go up and become a VP of sales and all that. And you've kind of done both throughout your career. It seems like you've kind of wavered back and forth, and now you're doing your own thing where you're an entrepreneur and you're going to help, educate and teach and coach people. I'm curious if you have any advice for someone that maybe feels like they're hitting that fork in the road between whether they should maybe go be a manager on this next promotion, or they want to get into enterprise AE and start selling really big deals. Any career advice?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would have you ask yourself if you're in that crossroads is, have you done everything that you set out to do? And is there growth left, right? So that's the first question, because if you're leaving because things are hard, you don't see the opportunity, but you really haven't gotten to the top, then it's usually not time. So every time I made a move at a new, promotion or take on teams or move to Salesforce from Ricoh, I'd gotten to that place where I was done growing. I think that's the first thing is if you're done growing, if you are done growing, then yes, it's absolutely timed to make a move. That's the first thing. So that then it's okay, sales or leadership. And I think that just depends on your motivation. It depends on what you want. So if you're somebody who's, I would say money motivated, and you want to have flexibility in terms of your schedule and where you are, and freedom to work when you want, and just kind of worrying about yourself, I think definitely sales is the best path, because you're pretty much the business owner for your own territory, and you can work remotely and sell. I mean, depending on the company, if you're selling at a Salesforce in a director position like I am, you're pretty much running your own show, right? You don't have that micromanagement level. We're not talking about entry level. We're talking about running a $20 million territory or something equivalent like that. So I think working in sales is I want to worry about me. I want to make my money. I don't want to have to, I want to do my thing and not be told what to do, apart from the trainings or the mandatory stuff. I think that independent kind of mind is really geared towards staying in sales. And if that's what makes you happy, you stay there. And then get to the top. And if you're at the top in that strategic account role where you're selling, the Fortune 500s at the likes of Salesforce or wherever, you could be at a startup, but really making that 7 figures, really top of your game. And you're okay, I'm done growing, I want to get out of here. Then, okay, go into management, right? You get to that point where you're at the very top of your game, and then when you're bored and when you feel like you're growing, that's when you make a move. So, I was at 2 companies for 19 years, but in those companies, I had many, many different positions. And at
Yeah.
Ricoh, I managed sales teams and managed managers. And then I had 80 employees and 10 sales managers when I left there. So I kind of climbed the ranks. And what I found in leadership, which is the other path, is that frontline sales manager role is really, really rewarding and fulfilling, because you literally are hiring people, you're taking them on, you're teaching them the ropes, you're out there leading by example, showing them how to sell, selling with them, putting money in their pocket. So if you're somebody who's motivated by coaching others and leading others and really developing others and watching others succeed, to the point I shared earlier about being of service, I think sales leadership is great, right? Especially that frontline leader. But again, as you get higher and you start managing managers, which is what I was doing, there's more bureaucracy, there's more reporting. You get pulled away from that development of people and more into like, sandwich kind of between the company goals, your team, strategic. And that's what I found myself is as I got in that middle management, I got less and less away from the customers that I loved selling to and in the individual AEs that I loved coaching. And so I went back and became an individual contributor again, because I realized I love selling, right? And that, even though I love leading and helping and coaching people, I wasn't doing that much of that as I climbed the ranks in sales management. So if you're a CRO or a head of sales, a lot of times you're in meetings and in boardrooms, and you're not necessarily in the frontline coaching and leading or with the customers as much as you'd like. And I'd say for people that get to that position and they realize it's not what they wanted, again, then you make another change. So I think it's good to experience both, so you know what you like and what you don't like. But my number one piece of advice is don't make a move if you're not done growing. When you've gotten to the top and you've done everything you set out to do, then it's time to grow. But don't leave because things are hard, or because you don't like the direction it's going. So you're changing careers as an excuse to get away from your current situation. I see that a lot, right? It's like they're just tired of whatever, and so they go into management, and that's not a great reason to do it. Go into management because you want to develop and serve and watch other people succeed. Don't go into it for money, because frankly, you can make a lot more money as an individual contributor in sales. If you're 200-300% of your plan crushing it, you're going to make more than the manager who has to rely on a team of 7 or 8 people to get to their number. And you're just not going to be 300% as a manager. It's unlikely, whereas you can do that as an individual contributor. So hopefully that answers your question. It depends on your motivation. Is the short answer.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And a couple speed rounds before I let you go, Ian. So you can answer these in a sentence or 2 each. We talked about Stephen Covey's book. We're big learners on this podcast. Any other books? It could be any topic in the whole world. Any books that have been really impactful for you as a person or as a business person.
7 Habits is my number 1 of all time. My number 2, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. So Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich. He's known for that, but a lot of people don't know Outwitting the Devil. Really, really great read about facing your demons and, going against the grain, right? What society, what everyone says is going to make you happy, or do, being with the herd. If you're someone who is just an outcast, or kind of always likes the hard road, or, is different, and you like pain, and you just always take the road less traveled, Outwitting the Devil is a really, I think, a great read. It resonated well with me. Another book I love is Atomic Habits, really about, the power of habit and how to break bad habits and get in good habits, develop self-discipline. Let's see, those 3 jump out. I talked about The Happiness Advantage. There's some sales books that I recommend. I like Keenan's Gap Selling. As a way it matches and aligns with kind of how I sell, focusing on where they want to go, where they are today, and that gap, that challenge. Spin Selling is also a fantastic sales book. Gap and Spin Selling are similar in their approach. Gap is a little more modern, but I like those. I read every month. I have a new book, so I could go on. The one I'm reading right now is called The Go Giver. I just started. It's like how to be of service in the industry of sales, and how if you give first, you receive a lot more within sales. And I really like it so far. The storytelling that the authors are using is fantastic. So that one I haven't finished yet, but I already would recommend it just based on kind of where I'm at. But I would tee up 7 Habits number 1. Of all time. There's so many books, but that's what comes to mind right now.
That's a great one. Okay. The biggest deal that you closed in your career, how big?
I closed for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, which was a $12 million deal.
Whoo!
Yeah, it was a nice size, chunky. I can say that because it's public. It's a public reference, but yeah, it was a multi-year contract. They had started with us. They were spending 30,000, not doing anything. It was like one small area, and we just
Wow.
blew up and very strategically aligned with their CEO, their COO. And I'm still friends with him. He's been to my house. He ended up leaving to go to another company, but it was a really fantastic. I've had a lot of deals, but that's the biggest one. There's been other deals with Activision, Blizzard, and Experian, and certainly in my Ricoh days, I had a bigger team that was selling with me. So I had a lot of exposure there, but as an individual, the Berkshire one was the biggest one they've closed.
Dang, I was going to ask if Warren Buffett got involved in that one.
Actually, funny story. There was a $50 million contract we were trying to close. It was 47 million, and it got to the boardroom. And I was told I got the deal, and that the board approval was just a formality. And that was from their CEO. And literally, even their parent company was negotiating terms. Everything was ready to go. And the CEO was supposed to update me on the board waiting. He's gone silent. So imagine that, like you're waiting on a $47 million deal. He goes silent. And it was, it was heartbreaking. He calls me up end of the day. And I was in Dallas, Texas, and he says, Ian, I got some bad news. They didn't approve it. I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, well, the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, right? And I won't name names. You can look them up, but they said he's friends with Bill Gates. And he goes to Bill Gates's house, and apparently this got all the way up to the Berkshire board level, where they said, give Microsoft a shot, right? Bill Gates is on our board. If you know anything about Warren Buffett, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are very, very close friends. And so that actually was a political, roadblock that I did not anticipate and could do nothing about it. And it completely derailed the deal. And so that would have been my biggest deal of my career, 47 million. And I was told I got it. And, it is what it is. I say, find the gift in everything. And the gift is that you learn to deal with heartbreak and move on and keep going. That's the gift, is bouncing back, from something like that. So yeah, that would have been my biggest, but instead it was 12.
Crazy. All right. Last two for you. Number one, you're a family guy. Clearly you seem like you got your priorities in order. I'm engaged and trying to build out, a life as well. So what's your number one tip for me, for relationships, for family life?
Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll give you my number one tip. It's from the Bible. So I don't memorize scripture, but it says about marriage. It says that when you get married, you are yoked together. And it says, let no man pull apart what God has woven together or yoked together. And I can't remember the exact scripture, but that one has stayed with me, because when you're an individual and your wife is an individual, your partner's an individual, then it's like my needs, her needs, and we're completely separate. But if you are literally woven together and you see yourself as one entity, one unified entity, one person in God's eyes, you are one, right? You become one with that person. Then if they're in pain, if they're upset, you're upset. Whereas if you're separate, it's like, why are you upset? What are you trying to, just fix it, go do this, guys, especially are quick to like try and find a fix or a solution. But if it's your pain too and not their pain, then you're going to approach it differently. So what my advice is, when your partner, your fiance has a problem, really see it and treat it as your problem and put yourself in her shoes. And that really is going to enable you to be more empathetic versus, seeing it as her problem instead of yours. So that really, really landed with me in my marriage, because it's so easy just to like me and you, but when you're us and when you're unified, then you can be there for them when they really need you, and vice versa, right? So that's it, is like try to take her point of view. And again, Stephen Covey talks a lot about this, and it's about co-creating with your partner and really working together versus trying to fix stuff. And one of the books that I forgot to recommend is The 5 Love Languages. And
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a classic. Get to know your wife's love language. And the last piece of advice I'll give you is happy wife, happy life. So, do things to make your wife happy, make her a priority. As someone who made work a priority and myself a priority for a long time, I can tell you it's made all the difference in my own marriage to put my wife's needs, equal to mine, and really prioritize spending quality time with her and being present with her when I'm with her. So we could do a whole separate podcast on marriage advice, because I've made all the mistakes and I literally almost lost my wife and my family. So I've had to go to counseling and marriage and therapy, and this is kind of a summary of what anyone will tell you is like, try to take their point of view, be empathetic, treat her problems as your problems, and you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, Ian, I appreciate how open you've been super generous with your time, with your wisdom. Before the last question here, the last piece, like I definitely want to encourage everyone that's listening to go connect with you on LinkedIn, check you out on YouTube, Instagram. You're all over the place. You're not hard to find. But maybe just kind of close us out with talking for a minute just about what you're doing from a coaching standpoint. By the time this is out, you will have left Salesforce. You'll be on your own, doing your thing, moving and shaking. And so maybe just the best place where people can connect with you and learn more about that too.
Yeah, where I'm at right now. So we're recording end of September. And my goal is in January to launch a membership site for B2B tech sales professionals. And the membership site will have all of my content and courses, access to on-demand courses where, you can learn everything from prospecting to negotiations to getting in with strategic. It's going to be strategic selling. So really solution selling, strategic selling, geared more towards, I'd say more complex, not transactional. I'm not selling knives. No offense, but I'm selling
no
software or strategic consulting. More longer term plays where companies have to change what they're doing to adopt what you're selling. So that'll be launched in January. It'll have an online portal, and I'll be doing group coaching every week. So I'll have a membership site with different tiers of membership, from online all the way up to individual coaching. Right now, I am booked through the end of the year with my private coaching. But what I would say is, if you're interested in signing up for the wait list, I will cap enrollment because I want the experience to be tailored and personalized and not have too many people in these group calls. And so go on the wait list. It's just my name, www.iankoniak.com/contact. And on that waitlist, on the second form down, it says sign up for the coaching membership waitlist. So that form, if you fill out, I'm going to be going in order of what the people sign up and reaching out to everyone individually once it's launched. You'll also see it launched on LinkedIn, but if you're on there, you're going to get first priority to get in the course. I also have all of my free content available on my YouTube channel, which has training around selling, around mindset and habits, around happiness and fulfillment, kind of a lot of the stuff we touched upon, because it's all life, right? It's not just sales. It's living the life that you deserve and you want. That's what I'm after. I'm after combining training that incorporates selling skills, mindset, and habits to be the very best version of yourself. So I want to put content out there that doesn't exist today and really touches upon not just how to sell, but how to live your best life, and combining those elements of personal development and selling. So that's my life's work, and I'm actively building and developing that site right now. And so jump on the wait list. And the other place to find me is just LinkedIn. Shoot a direct message to me, a DM on LinkedIn, and just tell me you heard me on the podcast, and I'll send you the links to my newsletter. So you can, every week I release a new sales training video. So if you connect on LinkedIn, I'll send you the newsletter link. You could sign up, and I'll send you my YouTube. If you subscribe there, that will certainly help the cause and me producing more content. I have a ton of free content out there that can serve the sales community. So check that stuff out. And if you want more, hands-on, get on my wait list, and hopefully we can meet sometime.
Awesome. Ian, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything with us.
Thank you, Tom, and congrats on getting engaged, and wishing you the best as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking out that podcast. Happy July to you. Would love if you took 22 seconds and hit subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, your favorite podcast player. And be sure to check out some of my content on LinkedIn. I'm Tom Malemo. And on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Tommy Tahoe. Have a great day. Make it legendary. Peace.